The chamber was vast beyond imagination. It floated in the darkness of space, a massive ring built by civilizations older than human history. Inside, representatives from 870 species waited in their seats. Some breathed oxygen, others floated in liquid tanks. A few existed as pure energy, flickering like distant stars. At the center stood the Jatari Imperator. His forearms gestured at the hologram spinning before them. A small blue planet third from its yellow sun. "This is Earth," the Imperator said. His voice clicked and buzzed through translators. "Home to a species called humans. We have watched them for 200 years. Today we decide their fate." The chamber fell silent. 200 years was nothing to these ancient beings. But for humans it was everything. It was all their wars, all their achievements, all their mistakes. "They are violent," the Imperator continued. "They fight among themselves constantly. They poison their own world. They create weapons that can destroy their entire planet." A hologram appeared. It showed human soldiers shooting at each other, cities burning, forests cut down, oceans filled with plastic waste. "They are dangerous," another voice spoke. This was Ambassador Krelvor of the Drath Hegemony. He was massive, scaled like a crocodile, but standing upright like a bear. "My military analysts predict that humans will achieve faster than light travel in 50 years. Maybe less. Do we want this violence spreading across the galaxy?" Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Fear, agreement, some doubt. "I speak against this judgment." The voice was soft but clear. It belonged to Elder Thazara of the Cathen Collective. She looked almost human, but her skin was silver and her eyes had no pupils. Yes, humans are violent, but so were we. So was every species in this chamber. We all have bloody histories. "That is precisely why we must act," the Imperator snapped. "We learned from our mistakes. We evolved. We became civilized. But humans, they have nuclear weapons and still wage wars. They know they can destroy themselves, yet they continue." "They are young," Thazara insisted. "Give them time. Give them a chance." "We gave the Zelnoth a chance," Krelvor growled. "We watched them develop FTL technology. Within 20 years, they had conquered 17 systems. We had to wage a century-long war to stop them. Billions died. I will not allow another Zelnoth situation." The chamber erupted in debate. Some species agreed with Thazara. Most agreed with Krelvor. The argument continued for hours, but the outcome was clear from the beginning. Fear always wins. Finally, the Imperator called for a vote. All in favor of planetary sterilization of Earth? Lights began to glow across the chamber. Green for yes, red for no. The green lights outnumbered the red by a massive margin. The vote is 847 to 23. The decision is made. Earth will be cleansed. Admiral Krelvor, prepare your fleet. You have one standard galactic year. Thazara stood slowly. "This is murder. You are condemning 8 billion sentient beings to death. How are we different from the Zelnoth if we do this?" "We are different," the Imperator said coldly. "Because we do this to protect the galaxy, not to conquer it." The session ended. Species filed out of the chamber, returning to their ships. Krelvor walked with purpose. He had a fleet to assemble, a planet to destroy. It was a grim duty, but necessary. Thazara remained in her seat long after everyone left. She looked at the hologram of Earth still spinning slowly in the empty chamber. Such a beautiful world. Blue oceans, green continents, white clouds. She thought about the humans. They didn't know what was coming. They had no idea that their existence had been judged and found wanting. They would continue living their lives, loving their families, dreaming their dreams, never knowing that death was scheduled on a distant calendar. "I'm sorry," she whispered to the empty room. "I'm so sorry." Far across the galaxy on that small blue planet, Dr. Sarah Chen sat at her desk in the New Mexico desert. She worked at the radio telescope facility, listening to the stars. Most nights were quiet, just background noise and distant pulsars. But tonight was different. Her computer suddenly beeped. A signal, clear, strong, artificial. Sarah sat up straight, her heart pounding. She ran the analysis 3 times. 4 times. The result was always the same. This was not natural. This was a message. She broke the encryption within hours. It wasn't meant to be hard to break. Someone wanted humans to understand. When the translation appeared on her screen, Sarah's blood turned cold. "Attention, inhabitants of Earth. Your world has been observed. Your species has been evaluated. The Galactic Council has reached a verdict. You have been found incompatible with galactic civilization. Planetary sterilization will commence in 1 standard year. This transmission is sent as a final courtesy. You have 365 days. Use them wisely. Sarah stared at the screen. Her hands shook. She read it again. And again. Then she picked up the phone. Within 12 hours, world leaders gathered in emergency sessions. Within 24 hours, every government on Earth knew the truth. Within 48 hours, the news could no longer be contained. Humanity learned that they were not alone in the universe. They also learned that the universe had already decided they didn't deserve to live. The countdown had begun. The first week was chaos. Pure worldwide panic. Stock markets crashed. People rioted in the streets. Religious leaders declared it the end times. Scientists desperately searched for answers that didn't exist. World governments tried to maintain order while secretly planning for the worst. But something strange happened in the second week. The panic began to fade. Not because hope returned, but because humanity realized something profound. Fighting each other was pointless now. Every border dispute, every religious conflict, every political argument suddenly seemed incredibly stupid. If the entire species was going to die, they might as well die together. The United Nations transformed overnight. No more endless debates. No more vetoes. Every nation sent their best people, and for the first time in history, they actually worked together. They called it the Unity Council. Dr. Sarah Chen was there. She sat in a room with presidents, generals, scientists, and philosophers, all trying to answer one impossible question. What do we do? We should build weapons, General Morrison said. He was American, career military, a man who believed in fighting back. We have a year. We can militarize, launch nuclear missiles at their ships when they arrive. With what targeting system? Dr. Patel from India asked. We don't have faster-than-light technology. We can't even track their ships. It would be like throwing stones at fighter jets. We should try to communicate, suggested Ambassador Zhao from China. Negotiate, beg if we have to, offer them resources, technology, anything they want. They don't want resources, Sarah said quietly. They want us gone. The message was clear. They already decided. The room fell silent. President Okafor from Nigeria leaned forward. Then what do we do? Just wait to die? No, Sarah said. She stood up, her voice growing stronger. We show them who we really are. What do you mean? They judged us based on 200 years of observation. They saw our wars, our pollution, our violence. But they didn't see everything. They didn't understand us. So we send them a message? General Morrison asked skeptically. Yes, one message, one chance to change their minds. That's insane, someone said. Everything is insane now, Sarah replied. But it's all we have. The debate lasted for days. Eventually they agreed. Not because it was a good plan, but because it was the only plan. They would send one transmission. One final statement from humanity to the galaxy. But who would speak for Earth? They considered presidents and scientists, philosophers and religious leaders, famous actors and brilliant minds, but in the end they chose someone unexpected, Commander Marcus Webb. Marcus was nobody special. He was 43 years old, former Marine. Now he worked for the UN Space Force, managing satellites and space debris. He had fought in 3 wars. He had also built schools in Afghanistan after the fighting stopped. He had killed people. He had saved people. He was in many ways perfectly human. When they told him he was chosen, Marcus laughed. Me, I'm just a soldier. I can barely speak in front of 10 people without getting nervous. That's exactly why we chose you, President Okafor said. You're not a politician. You're not trying to sound smart. You're real. You're honest. You're human. Marcus accepted. What else could he do? They gave him 30 days to prepare. 30 days to figure out what to say on behalf of 8 billion people. 30 days to somehow convince an alien civilization that humanity deserved to live. He spent those days reading everything. History books, poetry, scientific papers, religious texts. He read about human atrocities, about the Holocaust, about slavery, about every terrible thing humans had ever done to each other. But he also read about the other things, about people who ran into burning buildings to save strangers, about scientists who gave away their discoveries for free, about ordinary people who made extraordinary sacrifices for others. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, things were changing. Elder Thazara of the Cathen couldn't forget Earth. She spent her days reviewing human transmissions, radio signals, television broadcasts, internet data that had leaked into space over the decades. She watched humans laugh, cry, create art, make music, fall in love. She saw a video of a human child in a war zone sharing bread with a starving dog. Another video showed firefighters forming a human chain to rescue a family from floodwaters. Another showed scientists celebrating when they cured a disease. Thazara began secretly sending these videos to other species. Not official transmissions, just quiet messages to friends, to people she trusted. "Look at this," she would say. "Are these really monsters?" Admiral Krelvor was also preparing. His fleet assembled at the staging point. 2,000 warships, the most powerful fleet ever gathered for a single operation. Enough firepower to shatter a moon. His officers were confident. This would be easy, quick, clean. But Krelvor was troubled. He couldn't stop thinking about the council vote. 847 to 23. Such overwhelming support. Yet he kept wondering about those 23 votes. What did they see that he didn't? He reviewed the files on humanity again, their wars, their weapons, their pollution. Then he saw something else in the data, a small note, almost hidden. It described how humans, despite their wars, had organizations dedicated to protecting endangered species. They actually spent time and money saving animals that had no benefit to them. What kind of species does that? Krelvor wondered. What kind of violent species cares about protecting other creatures? He dismissed the thought. Orders were orders. Duty was duty. Back on Earth, Marcus Webb sat alone in his apartment. In 3 days, he would make the broadcast. In 33 days, the fleet would arrive. He looked at his notes. Pages and pages of ideas, arguments, pleas, everything he might say. Then he threw them all away. He would speak from the heart. No scripts, no tricks, just the truth. Outside his window, he saw people going about their lives. Parents playing with children in the park. Couples holding hands. Street musicians playing songs. People laughing. Humanity had 30 days left to live, and they were spending it being human. Marcus smiled sadly. Maybe that was the message right there. The galactic fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system. 2,000 warships, each the size of a small city. They moved with precision, taking positions around the small blue planet. Admiral Krelvor stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Judgment. His crew worked efficiently, preparing weapons systems. Target coordinates were locked. Everything was ready. "Open a channel to the human homeworld," Krelvor ordered. "Channel open, Admiral." Krelvor spoke clearly, his words translated automatically into all human languages. "Attention, inhabitants of Earth. This is Admiral Krelvor of the Galactic Council Fleet. Your judgment day has arrived. We offer you this mercy. Evacuate your cities. Gather on the surface. Your end will be swift. You have 3 hours to comply." He closed the channel. Now they would wait. Humans would panic, run, maybe pray. Then it would be over. Krelvor had done this before, though never to a sentient species. It never got easier, but it was necessary. 3 hours passed. The fleet waited. Sensors showed activity on Earth, movement in the cities, but not evacuation. "Something else, Admiral," his communications officer said, confusion in her voice. "We're receiving a transmission from Earth. They're broadcasting on every frequency. Maximum power. They want everyone to hear. Everyone." Krelvor frowned. "Everyone on Earth?" "No, sir. Everyone in the galaxy. They're directing this transmission toward every known council world." Krelvor felt a chill. Put it through, the main screen activated. A human appeared. Male, middle-aged, wearing a simple military uniform. He sat in a chair, no fancy background, just a man. "My name is Marcus Webb," the human said. His voice was calm, almost conversational. "I'm a commander in the United Nations Space Force. I'm also a father, a son, and a citizen of Earth. Today, I speak for my species." Marcus looked directly at the camera, as if he could see through it into the ships surrounding his planet. "I want to start by saying we received your message. We understand why you're here. You watched us for 200 years. You saw our wars, our violence, our mistakes. and you decided we're too dangerous to exist. I understand that logic. I really do. He paused, taking a breath. But here's what you didn't see. You didn't see the choice we make every single day. Yes, we're violent. Yes, we fight. But every morning, 8 billion humans wake up and choose not to kill each other. Do you understand how incredible that is? Krelvor leaned forward, listening despite himself. You see our wars and think we're monsters. But you don't see the soldiers who refuse to shoot children, the enemies who become friends, the veterans who spend their lives trying to prevent the next war. We know war is terrible. We know it better than you do because we're still learning. Marcus's voice grew stronger. You watched us for 200 years. Well, we've been watching you for 6 months. Krelvor's eyes widened. That was impossible. Surprised? Don't be. You're not the only ones who are clever. While you were voting to kill us, our scientists were working. We cracked basic quantum communication 3 months ago. Not enough to travel faster than light, but enough to intercept your transmissions. Marcus pulled out a data pad. Let me tell you what we learned. The Zertari Imperium, who called us too violent. Your species conquered and enslaved 47 other species over 3,000 years. The Drath hegemony? Your people practiced ritual sacrifice until 5,000 years ago. You killed your own children to appease gods that didn't exist. The bridge of the eternal judgment was silent. Every officer stared at the screen. The Kivex Consortium? You committed genocide against the Pale Ones because they competed with you for resources. The Milix Empire? You destroyed 3 entire planets because they refused to join your trade agreements. Marcus set down the data pad. Should I continue? Because I have files on 847 species. Every single one of you has blood on your hands. Every single one of you was once like us. Violent, afraid, struggling. The only difference is time. He leaned forward. You judge us for being what you used to be. But here's what you forgot. You all chose to be better. You all decided to change, to grow, to evolve beyond your violence. And you succeeded. You became civilized. Marcus smiled sadly. So why won't you let us make the same choice? Admiral Krelvor felt something he hadn't felt in decades. Shame. You call this justice, Marcus continued. You call this protection. But it's not. It's fear. You're afraid that we might become what you used to be. But you know what? We're already becoming what you are now. We're already changing. He stood up from his chair. 200 years ago, we had slavery, legal slavery. Today, it's a universal crime. 100 years ago, we had worldwide wars that killed millions. Today, we have global organizations dedicated to preventing war. 50 years ago, we denied basic rights to half our population based on gender. Today, those same people lead nations. Marcus walked closer to the camera. We're not perfect. We never claimed to be. But we're getting better. Every generation, every year, every day. That's what you didn't see in your 200 years of observation. You saw our darkness, but you didn't see us fighting against it. His voice dropped, becoming almost gentle. You say we're too dangerous. But the real danger is giving up on a species that's trying. The real danger is deciding that some beings don't deserve the chance to grow. Because if you do that, what are you? What does that make you? Krelvor closed his eyes. The human's words cut deeper than any weapon. I'm not going to beg, Marcus said. I'm not going to ask for mercy. I'm going to ask you a question instead. Who will you be when this is over? Will you be the people who gave a young species a chance? Or will you be the people who committed genocide because you were afraid? Marcus sat back down. You have 847 civilizations in your council. 847 different histories of violence and redemption. Every single one of you was given a chance. All we ask is the same, not special treatment, just the same chance you all received. He looked directly into the camera one final time. The cosmos is watching. Your own people are watching. Your children are watching. This decision will define you forever. Choose wisely. The transmission ended. Across the galaxy, on 847 different worlds, billions of beings sat in stunned silence. They had heard everything. The human had made sure of that. And for the first time in a very long time, the Galactic Council members looked at themselves in the mirror and didn't like what they saw. On the bridge of the Eternal Judgment, nobody moved. The human's words hung in the air like smoke after an explosion. Admiral Krelvor stared at the blank screen where Marcus Webb had been moments before. His finger hovered over the firing control. One press. One decision. 8 billion lives would end, sir? His weapons officer asked quietly. Awaiting your orders. Krelvor said nothing. He was remembering something from 10,000 years ago. A story from his own people's history. The Burning Times, they called it. When the Drath had nearly destroyed themselves in endless wars over resources they didn't even need. His own ancestors had been monsters. They knew it. They admitted it. They changed, sir? The officer asked again. Wait, Krelvor said. Across the fleet, 2,000 ship captains watched the same transmission. Some felt nothing. Orders were orders, but others felt something stirring inside them. Doubt, guilt, recognition. Far across the galaxy, on the Cathen homeworld, Elder Thazara watched Marcus Webb's transmission with tears streaming down her silver face. She had tried to stop this. She had failed. But maybe the human had succeeded where she couldn't. She activated her emergency broadcast system, usually reserved for planetary disasters. But this was a disaster, just a different kind. People of Cathen, she said to her entire world, you must see this. You must see what we are about to do. She played Marcus's transmission again and again, making sure every citizen of her planet watched it. Within hours, protests erupted. Millions of Cathen gathered in their cities, demanding their government recall their ships, demanding they stop the genocide. The same thing happened on 47 other worlds. The transmission spread like fire through the galactic network. It was meant to spread. Marcus had made sure of that. On Earth, humanity waited. Not in chaos this time. In silence, people gathered in city squares, in churches, in mosques, in temples, in their homes. Families held each other. Strangers stood side by side. They had done everything they could. Now they could only wait. In New York, a street musician played violin. Beautiful, haunting music that drifted through the evening air. People stopped to listen. Some cried. Some smiled. All of them were together. In Tokyo, parents tucked their children into bed. They read stories, sang lullabies, pretended tomorrow would come like it always had. In Mumbai, priests from different religions stood together and prayed. Hindu, Muslim, Christian, Buddhist. All speaking to whatever gods might listen, asking for the same thing. A chance. In Lagos, scientists worked in their labs. If these were humanity's last hours, they would spend them pushing knowledge forward. Because that's what humans do. In Buenos Aires, an old woman baked bread, her grandmother's recipe. If the world was ending, it would end with the smell of fresh bread and the memory of better times. This was humanity's final message. Not the words Marcus spoke, but the actions of 8 billion people choosing how to face death, with dignity, with love, with stubborn, irrational hope. Back on the eternal judgment, communications were flooding in from across the galaxy. Admiral, we're receiving recall orders from the Cathen government. They're withdrawing their ships from the fleet. The Milix Empire is recalling their forces as well. Sir, 47 species have now issued recall orders. Their ships are breaking formation. Krelvor watched as nearly a quarter of his fleet began to withdraw. His perfect formation was falling apart. Admiral, his communications officer said nervously, we're receiving emergency transmissions from the council chamber. They're in chaos. Several species are demanding an immediate revote. What's the delay? Krelvor asked. The Jatari Imperator refuses. He says the vote was final. He's ordering us to proceed regardless. Krelvor looked at his weapons display. The targeting was perfect. He could destroy Earth's major cities in minutes. The fleet still had enough ships to complete the mission even without the ones that withdrew. He thought about Marcus Webb's question. Who will you be when this is over? Sir, the Imperator is demanding your response. He wants confirmation that you will proceed. Krelvor had been a soldier for 300 years. He had fought in 12 wars. He had killed enemies by the thousands. But he had never killed someone who was begging for their life. He had never murdered someone who surrendered, and Earth had surrendered, not with weakness but with truth. Admiral Krelvor, the Imperator's voice crackled through the comm. You have your orders. Execute them now. Krelvor looked at Earth on his screen. That beautiful blue planet, so small, so fragile, so full of life. He thought about his own children back home. What would he tell them about today? Would he tell them he followed orders? Would that make him proud? Admiral, the Imperator shouted. Respond. Krelvor made his decision. Fleet weapons, he announced calmly. Stand down. Power down all offensive systems. His bridge erupted in shocked silence. Sir? His weapons officer stammered. The Imperator ordered. I heard the order, Krelvor said. I'm countermanding it. But Admiral, that's mutiny. That's the right choice, Krelvor finished. He turned to face his crew. I've been a warrior my entire life. I know what it means to follow orders. But I also know what it means to be honorable. And there is no honor in this. He activated fleet-wide communications. This is Admiral Krelvor to all ships. I am ordering a complete stand-down. We will not fire on Earth. Any captain who disagrees is free to leave the fleet. But know this, the humans are right. We were all once like them. Every one of us. And someone gave us a chance. I choose to give them the same. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then one ship powered down its weapons. Then another. Then 10 more. Then 100. But not all of them. 200 ships, mostly Jatari and their close allies, refused the order. They maintained target locks on Earth. This is Captain Zekthral of the Jatari destroyer Vengeance, a voice announced. Admiral Krelvor, you have betrayed the Council. We will complete the mission ourselves. The 200 ships charged their weapons. Krelvor looked at Earth one more time. Then he looked at his tactical officer. Move the eternal judgment between Earth and those ships. Sir, you heard me. Position us as a shield. If they want to fire on Earth, they'll have to go through us first. Admiral, they'll destroy us. Then they'll destroy us, Krelvor said quietly. But they won't destroy Earth, not today. The massive flagship moved slowly, positioning itself directly in the line of fire. One ship against 200. It should have been suicide. But one by one, other ships joined the eternal judgment. Ships that had been ready to withdraw. Ships whose captains had been uncertain. They formed a wall between Earth and destruction. Captain Zekthral found himself facing not a defenseless planet, but 800 warships ready to defend it. The cosmos held its breath. 2 minutes passed. Then 5, then 10. Finally, Zekthral's voice came through again. You're all traitors. All of you. But his weapons powered down. He couldn't fire through his own people. Nobody could. The hostile ships withdrew in rage and shame, but they withdrew. Earth was safe. For now. The moment the hostile ships withdrew, Earth erupted in celebration. Cities that had been silent for days suddenly roared with joy. People poured into the streets crying and laughing and hugging strangers. Church bells rang. Fireworks exploded. Music played, they were alive. Humanity was alive. Marcus Webb sat alone in the broadcast station, exhausted. He had watched everything from there. The fleet's arrival, the standoff, the final withdrawal. His hands were still shaking. Dr. Sarah Chen found him there an hour later. You did it, she said softly. You saved us. Marcus shook his head. I didn't save anyone. I just told the truth. They saved themselves by listening. Same thing, Sarah smiled. No, Marcus said firmly. It's not. We're alive because they chose mercy. Because Admiral Krelvor chose to disobey orders. Because 800 ships chose to stand between us and death. We owe them everything. Sarah sat down beside him. So what happens now? Now? Marcus looked at her. Now we have to prove them right. The Galactic Council was in chaos. Half the species were demanding the Imperator's resignation. The other half were demanding punishment for the ships that refused orders. Nobody could agree on anything. Elder Thazara stood before the assembly, her voice cutting through the noise. Enough, she shouted. All of you, enough. Look at what we've become. We nearly committed genocide because we were afraid. We nearly destroyed an entire species because they reminded us of our past. Is this who we are? Is this what we've evolved into? The chamber fell silent. I propose a new vote, Thazara continued. Not to destroy Earth, but to welcome it. To offer humanity a place in the Galactic Council. Not as servants, not as primitives, but as equals. They don't have faster-than-light travel. Someone objected. They can't qualify for membership. Then we help them develop it, Thazara said. The same way others helped us. The same way every species in this chamber received help from those who came before. We extend the hand of friendship, not the fist of judgment. The Jatari Imperator rose to speak, but found he had no support. Even his own people were turning against him. The transmission had changed everything. The galaxy had seen itself in the mirror, and it didn't like the reflection. The vote was called. 891 species voted to welcome humanity to the Galactic Council. 3 voted against. It was the most unanimous vote in Council history. 3 months later, Admiral Krelvor's ship landed on Earth. It was the first official alien contact. The first time a non-human set foot on humanity's homeworld. Marcus Webb was there to greet him. The two stood facing each other. Human and Drath, former enemies. The press cameras captured every moment. Krelvor spoke first. "Commander Webb, I came to apologize. I came to your world to destroy it. Instead, you taught me what it means to have honor. I am sorry." Marcus stepped forward and extended his hand. "You came to destroy us, but you chose not to. That's what matters. Not what you almost did, but what you chose to do." Krelvor looked at the hand. In his culture, touching another being was intimate, reserved for family. But he reached out and took Marcus's hand anyway. The handshake lasted only a second, but the image would be remembered forever, the moment Earth joined the galaxy. 10 years passed. Earth's cities now had alien districts. Kathen, Drath, Millix, and dozens of other species lived alongside humans. Not always easily, not without problems. But they lived together. Humans built their first faster-than-light ship with galactic help. They named it the Eternal Hope. Its maiden voyage carried relief supplies to a Drath colony suffering from famine, because that's what humanity chose to do with their new technology. The Galactic Council met again, this time with human representatives present. Ambassador Marcus Webb sat among the delegates. He rarely spoke, but when he did, people listened. Today's session was about a newly discovered species. They were primitive, violent. Their planet was ravaged by war and pollution. The debate was familiar. Some species wanted to quarantine them. Others wanted to guide them. A few wanted to destroy them before they became a threat. Marcus listened to the arguments. Finally, he stood to speak. 10 years ago, I sat on my world and spoke to this council through a camera. I begged you to see us, to understand us, to give us a chance. Some of you did. Some of you didn't, but enough of you listened. Enough of you chose mercy over fear. He looked around the chamber. Now you're debating another species, another world full of beings who are violent and dangerous and flawed, and you're wondering if they deserve a chance. Marcus smiled. I know a species like that. They were once judged harshly, very harshly. They were hours away from extinction, but someone gave them a chance. And you know what? They didn't become perfect. They didn't become peaceful overnight. But they tried. They kept trying. They're still trying. He gestured to the other human delegates in the chamber. Look at us. We're still flawed. We still argue. We still make mistakes. But we're here. We're part of this council. We're contributing. We're learning. And maybe, just maybe, we're making the galaxy a little better. Marcus sat down. Elder Thazara smiled at him. Admiral Krelvor, now retired and serving as a military advisor, nodded in respect. The vote was called. The new species would be observed, guided, given a chance. Not destroyed, not judged prematurely. Given the same opportunity that humanity received, the vote passed unanimously. After the session, Krelvor found Marcus in the hallway. You've become quite the diplomat, the old Drath said. I'm just saying what needs to be said, Marcus replied. Someone has to speak for the ones who can't speak for themselves. That's why they chose you 10 years ago, Krelvor said. You understood something the rest of us had forgotten. What's that? That potential isn't about what you are. It's about what you choose to become. Marcus smiled. A wise alien once taught me that. Right before he refused to fire on my planet. Krelvor laughed. It was a deep rumbling sound. I was just following your example. You showed us that courage isn't about weapons. It's about standing up for what's right even when you're afraid. They walked together through the council halls. Human and Drath, teacher and student, both and neither. Outside, Earth hung in the darkness of space. Still blue, still beautiful, still full of flawed, stubborn, hopeful humans who refused to give up. Once the galaxy had targeted that planet. Once the cosmos had held its breath, waiting to see if 8 billion lives would end. But one transmission changed everything. Not because it was perfect, not because it was eloquent, but because it was true. And truth, as humanity taught the galaxy, is the most powerful weapon of all. Marcus stood at the observation window, looking at Earth. His home world. The planet that almost died. The species that refused to accept extinction. "We're going to be okay," he said quietly. "Yes," Krelvor agreed. "You are. And so are we. Because of you, the galaxy remembered what it means to give second chances. That might be humanity's greatest gift to us." Marcus turned away from the window. There was work to do. More species to help. More chances to give. More choices to make. The cosmos was no longer holding its breath. It was breathing freely, learning to trust again. Learning to hope again. All because one species, when faced with extinction, chose to speak their truth instead of begging for mercy. All because one admiral chose honor over orders. All because the galaxy decided that potential matters more than past mistakes. Earth was targeted. The cosmos held its breath. But humanity's choice changed everything, and the universe would never be the same.